Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, we are nearly 2 weeks into Season 7 for Diablo 4, and over that time there have been some pretty massive shifts up and down in power for multiple builds and multiple classes, with Sorcerer and Spiritborn jumping up to doing tier 150 pits, up from 120s at the top end just a few hours before that once a bug was discovered, to the cause of that bug then being fully disabled in the game, and that even nuking some unintended targets in the meantime as a result too. And so to put it simply, the best builds from a few days ago just aren't the same ones anymore. At least not all of them are, and we'll also talk a bit about some expected changes in a few days as well when Decay Augmentation is reactivated, but without the bugs it was having before. That said, let's go over the best builds for each class right now, mostly based on the highest pit tier completions on the leaderboards, but if something is incredibly pit specific, I will mention a good alternative for other activities too. Starting off then, let's talk about Barbarian, and this has taken some fun turns over the season so far, honestly, with the current highest clear reported being a tier 150 as of very recently, just by literally a couple of seconds though before timing out. And while a lot of players were excited for the new Barbarian unique, the Mantle of Mountain's Fury, and the way it was looking to change the way that earthquakes would work from the ground up, pun intended, it's the Shroud of False Death mythic unique chess piece coming out on top, even for earthquake builds specifically, because currently the Mantle of Mountain's Fury damage from exploding earthquakes is seemingly lacking scaling with things in a way that makes it better to just sort of let the earthquakes run through most of the time, but then that combined with the Shroud of False Death having a bug currently, where it also boosts the effectiveness of the Unconstrained key passive from 60% while berserking up to 95% while berserking, which then gets doubled by having Wrath of the Berserker at 100% uptime, so it's just a permanently absolutely nasty multiplier that you have active on your build and affecting your earthquakes on the whole, stacking them up endlessly. And then a lot of higher push builds are also working around a combination of pulling enemies in and things like the Inner Calm aspect to boost damage as you're standing still, and the Lith rune to gain offering while standing still as well to create even more earthquakes. It's quite a fun build to watch do its thing too. Next up then, let's talk about the Druid, and the top build for Druid is Cataclysm, and has been since the start of the season. In prior seasons, one of the best builds was Hurricane, built around snapshotting it as a crit overpower for its full duration, which is all well and good, but Season 7's update gave us ways to not only scale more ultimate skill damage as well as more methods of cooldown reduction or duration increase that we can apply specifically to Cataclysm, which is then built around a lot of the same concepts of the old Hurricane build, but just way stronger because of the power of Cataclysm itself this season. The idea being you snapshot crit, overpower, and a whole load of other damage bonuses like the quick shift passive or the ancestral guidance paragon node, and then you hit Cataclysm at the perfect moment to just give it a ridiculous number of buffs that last for the whole duration, and as long as you don't accidentally overwrite the buff, you can just extend it by pressing Cataclysm again, but as long as it happens before the duration is over, letting you put a whole lot of your other resources into pure survivability as a result. This build takes a bit of knowledge to get into to begin with, but once you know the sort of order of operations to starting the process, you can just walk around while Cataclysm clears the screen around you in most content in the game, with only pits themselves requiring that little bit of extra attention and specific gameplay too. Following that, we have the Necromancer, whose best build is very much undeniably Blood Wave. This takes significant advantage of the new Kesami's Legacy unique pants for Season 7, which not only have the chance for Blood Wave to deal double damage, Blood Wave cooldown reduction, damage reduction while fortified, ultimate damage, and massive amounts of fortify gained when casting Blood Wave itself as the affixes on the item, but the unique effect it has on it too then not only gives you 2 Blood Waves on cast, which pull enemies into the center, dealing explosion damage on hit, and increasing the damage enemies take from Blood Wave massively each time they are hit by Blood Wave itself. So this stacks up super quickly, especially in a build to spam Blood Wave, one with Title, which gives you extra Blood Waves as well, and it lets you put these back to back, mostly through the Fast Blood legendary aspect, which reduces ultimate skill cooldown for each Blood Orb that you pick up, which can obviously stack up extremely effectively in a Blood Wave setup, allowing in the just permanent chains of Blood Waves doing ridiculously powerful stuff. It's a sight to behold. It's the most powerful build this season so far, without bugs at least, and because of that, it's likely to stick around until the end of the season, being just as strong as it currently is. After that, we have the Rogue, whose strongest pit clearing build for high tiers is Rain of Arrows by quite a large margin, and this is largely due to Shadow Clone having some bugs that do need ironing out, as a lot of rogues were expecting big things to come from Shadow Clone with the changes we were told would be happening in Season 7, but currently it does things like not counting imbuements for its casts after the first one when being summoned, end, which just completely breaks a lot of builds that people did have planned. As a result, Rain of Arrows is killing it though. However, the damage to distant enemies scaling at rank 5 for the skill is massive, and through a combination of maximum cooldown reduction on Rain of Arrows and the preparation class specialization reducing ultimate cooldown as you spend energy, you can get to the point where essentially every second cast can be Rain of Arrows, doing it multiple times per second, 100% critical hit chance on it, and then you just absolutely work through all kinds of other damage boosts in and around that setup. But the core of it is just absolutely spamming out Rain of Arrows while trying to line up things like the preparation key passive buff with every cast of your ultimate, rather than accidentally triggering it with another skill. I should also mention that Dance of Knives builds are super comfortable for the majority of the content in the game, but they do start to fall behind on Torment for bossing and actually pushing high pit tiers as well compared to Rain of Arrows. After that we have the Sorcerer, and while there were interesting rumblings going on for a few days there, Sorcerer has gone back down a fair chunk before rising back up to a new top pit clear of tier 136. And the current top build for pit clearing is based around the Inferno Fire ultimate and having that go through the same interactions with Greater Fireball as the top sort builds were using the last couple of seasons, causing just massive amounts of burning to stack up on enemies, which then makes the Shatter key passive proc on enemies' death, so they just explode one enemy into the next like a line of dominoes being knocked over by a small child with no concept of their own destructive capabilities. And pretty much every sorcerer that I know who has played this style of Shatter fishing build always said that they hate this playstyle, because it mostly just makes you incapable of killing anything that isn't a pile of enemies grouped up on top of each other, including needing to literally just rerun pits over and over until you get a boss that summons adds at the end, doing the highest pit tier you can and just hoping you get that boss at the end that Shatter works for, because if you don't, you need to restart the pit run entirely until you get a boss that works. It's honestly quite a sad state of affairs, but it's still power, just power with that caveat that makes it very important to know about. And with that note, for pretty much everything else that isn't pushing pit tiers, Lightning Spear builds are still just really strong, Fireball builds are really good too, they're just solid comfort builds that you can do anything that you want outside of literally pushing the highest pit tiers too, which does require Shatter. Then finally there's the Spiritborn, whose best build by pit clear at least has changed multiple times over the last few days, but with decay augmentation currently disabled completely, it's good old Kepaleke crit overpower quill volley, the same build that topped the charts for Spiritborn in season 6. Before this, poison based builds were seeing a little bit of a bump, first with the Seeker ultimate based builds that were built around poison over time, which was a neat variation. These hit pit 120, but it used decay augmentation, which is currently just gone. That said, it didn't use the bugged infinite scaling for decay augmentation that some other builds started to do, so this one may actually be back to being generally good again when that is fixed, but only for pits really, as Seeker focused gameplay is a bit unwieldy in any other type of content. And so again, generally I'd say the best build for Spiritborn right now is the crit overpower banished lords Kepaleke quill volley combo. It has the same functional interactions as it did in season 6, but now it's had the numbers reduced in general through Kepaleke as unique being nerfed, but then also a bunch of the bugged interactions that were unintended before for Spiritborn being fixed and bringing it back down to the world of relatively balanced, though it is the one with the lowest top end of any class right now. That just about does it for today then, everyone. The best build for each class as of this moment, nearly 2 weeks into season 7 of Diablo 4. The power that players are reaching on average is pretty ridiculous compared to last season, with everything but Spiritborn hitting tier 135 or higher, and 3 separate classes now being at tier 150 completions. Players are just stronger relative to the game than we have ever been before, at least in these specific particularly strong builds that are happening at the moment. I hope you've enjoyed checking out what the top players are doing then, and let me know any of your own thoughts down in the comments below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.